I'm Leigh Colby. I'm the principal founder and president and CEO of TriAgenics, a company located in Redmond, Oregon. And we're really excited because we're introducing the most disruptive new dental technology since dental implants were introduced in 1980. But in order for us to succeed, we first had to overcome some huge technical obstacles. I'd like to share that with you. You'll find it quite interesting. What we've developed is a 1-minute procedure that prevents wisdom teeth from ever forming. And that's why these kids are smiling. What you can imagine is that kids will be able to immediately go out and play after they've had their wisdom teeth blocked. It's a fantastic procedure. And let's first look at what conventional wisdom tooth extraction. I'm sure most of you have had your wisdom teeth extracted and remember it quite fondly. It's a highly invasive procedure, involves cutting away the gums, exposing bone. Many times the teeth have to be cut into sections. Then the sections are pried out. There's usually a hole left. You can't get primary closure. And that leads to a very high infection rate, a lot of pain afterwards. Takes 10 to 20 minutes, most of the time done by a specialist. In contrast, TriAgenics has developed a procedure called 3 TBA. That stands for third molar tooth bud ablation. It's a simple 20 to 40 second procedure. Treatment is delivered by a single small puncture. So there's no incisions, there's no bone removal, there's no sutures. There's a dramatically reduced surgical risk profile as a result. But the key thing is that the clinical outcomes are far better than conventional surgical extraction. So what's the big deal about getting your wisdom teeth out? It's the single most common procedure performed on kids aged 15 to 25 of age. And the reason for that is over 85% of all wisdom teeth are impacted. They're blocked from erupting all the way. And when they can't erupt, they get infected. We see that over 50% of those that form wisdom teeth will have gum infections around them by age 25. So it's a serious problem. The real issue is that there's a greater than 99% lifelong incident of disease with these teeth. They have the highest rate of decay, gum disease, bone loss, cyst formation around them. They are nothing but trouble for the dental industry and our patients. The bottom line is over 95% of everybody in the US will eventually have their wisdom teeth removed. So preventing wisdom teeth formation, blocking them from ever forming, eliminates all these problems. This is a big deal. On average, adults miss 4.5 days of work when they have their wisdom teeth out. Over 20% require unplanned visits. They have dry sockets. I'm willing to bet that those in the audience know what I'm talking about. It's a terrible post-op issue. Over 10% of patients will lose the molars in front of the wisdom teeth because of infections caused by the wisdom teeth. Huge expense and problem. It's so prone to litigation and complications that over 80% of all wisdom teeth are removed by expensive oral surgeons. But our procedure, 03 TBA, we have none of these complications based on live animal studies. And it doesn't require a specialist to deliver. So let's talk about the clinical rationale behind it. It's driven by anatomy. And what you can see is that there's a 5 to 10 millimeter separation of bone between the wisdom tooth bud. That's what this is, that my cursor is moving around. Yet in our procedure, it's impossible to interfere or damage that nerve. But it's a common problem with wisdom teeth extraction because the root tips go right down to the nerve. So the potential for being permanently numb is eliminated from our procedure. Another key problem is damage to the second molar by the wisdom teeth. And in our procedure, the enamel is completely formed. There's no potential to damage that tooth. Finally, we have what we refer to as an encapsulated footprint. We insert the probe, place it in the center of the tooth bud. We perform the ablation, and there's no potential then for infection because there's no open wound. So Zero3 TBA is real high precision medicine. This is our microablation generator. This is the disposable probe that's used. We have 100% success in our fully audited GLP live animal testing. And I'll explain how it is that we achieve such high, perfect outcomes. It's incredibly controllable. So our product is ready. We are going into human clinical trials next year. We plan on submitting our IDE application in the first quarter of 2021. We anticipate being first in human clinical trials third quarter of 2021. But to get to this point, we had to overcome medical industry technology limitations that no other medical company was able to overcome. So let's take a look at conventional technology. Over 99% of all tumor ablations are ablated at 2.45 gigahertz. What you can see here, it produces an oblong, almost a hot dog shaped zone of ablation. And when we set out to find the best technology, this is the best that we got. We tried going to a very high frequency, and you can see this teardrop shape. Imagine the kid's gum tissues come across where the cursor is. You're going to end up with a 4 to 5 millimeter burn, but there will be a hole where the probe was inserted. That'll get infected, and that's absolutely unacceptable for our procedure. So what we did was we came up with a way to shape the microablation energy, and nobody else has ever been able to do that before. So we get it to fit right into the circle, our target area. Let's talk about how we shape, because it really is quite amazing what we've been able to do. We can generate a spherical zone of ablation that has never been reported in the literature to our knowledge. But we took that even a step further. We can go with a high aspect ratio zone of ablation, where the zone of ablation is actually 1.3, 1.4 times wider than it is longer on the shaft. That's never been reported. We can also generate an oblong zone of ablation. And when we fix these, we deliver it with high predictability. Another key thing that we had to overcome is that the zone of ablation is fixed relative to the tip. Notice that these are all centered around the tip. That did not exist elsewhere in the medical ablation industry. And we had to overcome that, and it'll become obvious why. This is the PR probe. You can find this on J&J Ethicon website. They claim to be the only probe where they can control the burn pattern. But if you take a close look at it, it starts out at the tip, and as the burn pattern heats up, it migrates up, and you get back to that oblong shape, and that is absolutely unacceptable for microablation in children. So what we do is we center the zone of ablation, and that's an industry first. So when we insert the probe, you can see that the zone of ablation remains fixed relative to the probe, and that simply does not exist elsewhere in the industry. So let's take a look at why that's important. We do very high resolution positioning, and what this shows is a tooth bud, and this is out of our live animal studies. We place the center of ablation of the probe plus or minus a half millimeter. So when we have a fixed center of ablation, all of a sudden we know where to position it with high predictability. So once you're able to position and shape, all of a sudden volume control becomes much more dependable. And what we want to be able to do is deliver a volume of ablation per prescription. We don't want to underablate, as shown here. We don't want to overablate, as you can see here. So we can accurately dial in our zone of ablation plus or minus a half millimeter. Extraordinary accuracy for this procedure. So let's take a look at the addressable market on this. Every year there's over 4 million 9-year-olds that come through the system. And we use this to calculate the total addressable market, which we would say is about half the kids will have access to routine dental care. And on average, the kids have 3.5 tooth buds, and we have planned sales of $350 per kid. Now, that translates into a $2.5 billion, what we call a total addressable market, where we eliminate half because kids don't have routine care. We plan on greater than $200 million in revenues 5 years following market penetration. And when you look at the total market of 4 million 9-year-olds, that's just a 4% market penetration of the gross overall market. So let me summarize. TriAgenics has successfully raised $5 million in our development efforts since incorporating in 2017. We expect to go into human clinicals next year. And we're actively seeking a distribution partner that has an established position in the marketplace to help us get us into the dental market in an adequate time. Thank you.